Welcome everybody to the Cheese in Depth. I'm Michael Landis and I'm with David Gremmels with Rogue Creamery. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about him and his cheeses, his farm, his cattle, everything like that. And then we're going to be tasting some cheese, some magnificent cheese. So that'll be coming up in just a second. But what I want to do right now is introduce you to David Gremmels. David?
Michael, thank you for that introduction and welcome to everyone. Michael and I have had a few occasions to honor cheese and certainly pair those cheeses with fine libations. And so it's just great to be reunited here virtually and to share this experience with so many cheese lovers from around the United States and the world. So welcome everyone. So it's my hope to introduce you to Rogue Creamery and also to American artisan cheese making, as well as pairings. So I've created a few pairings, baked a bit of bread this morning. Under the circumstances, I just was not able to get out to the supermarket and get the crackers I would have desired, but I created some bread from it's a recipe by my dear friend Rodney Woodley in Portland. And so I'm here in my home today as well. So we're trading off at the Creamery, days on and days off at the Creamery during this time. So welcome to my home. And I'm looking forward to now taking you to the Rogue Valley. So we have a bit of a film to take you there and share a bit of our story. And then we'll go into one of my favorite things, and that is tasting a bit of cheese.
In 1933, a small creamery opened its doors in southern Oregon, creating jobs and supporting small farms in the Rogue River Valley in the midst of the Great Depression. Their success inspired the creamery's founder to visit Rockford and pursue his dream of creating a blue cheese rooted in tradition and inspired by Oregon terroir. Rogue Creamery began producing this new cheese, Oregon Blue, in 1954. Rogue Creamery, iconic handcrafted blue cheese from the heart of Southern Oregon, unleashing flavors and character unlike any other cheese in the world.
In 2002, when I purchased Rogue Creamery, I bought more than its recipes. I bought a legacy and a bit of Northwest pride. I worked hard to take it to the next level.
Since 2002, Rogue Creamery has become an international success, winning dozens of awards and countless admirers. Driven by a dedication to sustainability, President David Gremmels led both the creamery and its dairy farm to become certified organic in 2014.
Going organic was the first step to becoming socially and environmentally responsible. We took it to another level and joined other businesses, becoming a B Corp. These are businesses who are doing business as a force of good and having a positive impact environmentally, socially, and economically.
B corporations are pioneering a better way to do business. They support a movement to build a more inclusive and sustainable economy. This community ranges across size and industry of leading enterprises such as Rogue Creamery, Patagonia, Natura, and Danone North America.
For the past 2 years, Rogue Creamery has been honored Best for the World, placing in the top 10% of B Corps worldwide for its positive impact on community and environment.
It is our hope to influence business leaders and the next generation through our delicious cheeses. And certainly in our practices, making the world a better place.
So this video provides you with a sense of place and certainly expresses the personality of our team and our herd. And the word terroir is a reflection of that sense of place, that earth, that climate, the water, as well as the personality. So I'm glad you get to see this short video And also it really frames up who we are as a company. We're value-driven, we're mission-driven. We're a B Corp, and we use cheese as a force of good, one wheel at a time. And so with that, I think I'd like to take us into the flavor of cheese and start first with the Hopyard. And for those who've received the cheese flight, you'll have 4 cheeses. You'll have our Hopyard, you'll have our mystery beer cheddar, as well as our Crater Lake Blue and our Smoky Blue. For today's flight, I thought we would start with a Hopyard first, and then progress to the Crater Lake Blue, and then move forward with the Smoky Blue. And then we're gonna pause and then take you to the dairy, and Zach, our dairy manager, will give us a short explanation of our processes there and our commitment to being certified humane and our organic practices at the dairy. So, and with that, I'd like to start with the Hopyard, and it's this cheese that you'll see with a little bit of flakes of leaves, and those are actually blossoms of hops. And it really has a lovely aromatic, and I'll take my time as everyone takes the Hopyard out of the wrapper. Mine has been sitting out for about an hour now, so it's full of aromatics. And as you know, hops not only express those floral notes, but they also express a bit of citrus notes. My friends, John and Stacy Mayer of Rogue actually first introduced me to cultivating hops just outside of the Willamette Valley at a farm. I was actually utilizing their honey harvesting equipment to spin honey out of the frames here at my farm. So I drove up there, and it was in the midst of a hop harvest. And it was just so fascinating to me. And the air was just really filled with this lovely floral, earthy note, a bit of a resin note as well. And it just filled my mind with the idea, wow, we could take those hop blossoms, roll them around in a curd, and almost create what I would call an IPA expressing itself in cheddar. This is an American cheddar recipe. And cheddar, you know, we all feel like we own it. It's the #1 cheese in America, and I grew up with cheddar. Certainly not like this. The cheddar I grew up with was orange and a bit spongy and rubbery. So, but yeah, this is far advanced. And so it was the late 1700s when cheddar came over to the United States in New York, and it really started to take off in Herkimer County, and then it traveled west, and it's just so great that it's progressed in regions around the United States and certainly around the world. And in the Northwest, it's very expressive of a Northwest flavor. That sweetness comes through, that bit of briny, and of course this is flavored with the hops. So let's give it a taste. And Michael, I know you have some lovely pairings there.
I wanted to keep it simple. So I just have a brewer's cracker with sea salt with this. But for me, a lot of times pairing is when I'm with my friends and we're having a cocktail, we're having a beer. So I chose to pair this up with a really nice IPA. This is Babble to the Nag, and it has rosemary in it. And rosemary, the hops, and all that just works so beautifully with the cheese. So It's more of the beer. This is, you look there on the first one on the corner there is 610. It's Babble to the Nag. So kind of work a lot with these guys, and they're really good about being able to pair different things.
Well, Michael, you're a bit ahead of us in schedule here out west. So I chose a coffee. I chose a single varietal Nicaraguan bean that was roasted locally by Griffin Creek. And I think it really is a superb tasting with the coffee as well. So I have a better part of a day ahead. I wish I was there to join you and enjoy those ales. However, I would pair it with this Nicaraguan single varietal bean, and certainly Griffin Creek Roasters is a stone's throw from me. Just a little bit about the cheddar too. It is hand milled, hand cheddared. We're committed to creating cheese by hand at Rogue Creamery in all that we do. And so the milk is transferred from the dairy every other day, and then gently heated. And this is a pasteurized, non-homogenized, hand-milled, as I shared, cheddar. So we dip the curd after the cheddaring process. We'll actually mill the bricks of cheddar into curd yet again, and then salt them, and then hand dip them into blocks. And the block will hold about 60 pounds of cheddar that is then placed on an horizontal press, and it's in a hydraulic press that will press the whey and allows the curd to knit. So if you take a slice, you can actually see where that curd has knitted together in this. And so I should back up a little bit too and explain at the point at which we've cut the curd, that's when we're adding the blossoms of the hops that we've actually cut up to put into the cheddar. So, the style of hoops we use is historical in the US. It's called a Wilson hoop. It's a 40-pound hoop, and that creates a 40-pound block of cheese for us. So I also have a lovely Anjou pear, and I thought that would be also nice to pair with it too. Haha, right? So, so enjoy.
You know, this cheddar is just so easy. You know, when you look at a lot of times the cheddars, you have that intensity of the sour cream or the lemon tang or the lime. This has got just a nice balance. I actually believe that there's more butter in here, which I think goes really well with the hops, which has a little bit of a citrus pine to it. And it's just really well balanced. I adore this. You know, for people that are thinking like, oh my God, this is a hopped up cheddar, it really isn't. I think that when you look at the earthiness that you get from there, the little bit of citrus, the little bit of pine, those things, I blend absolutely perfectly into this cheddar. And I think that this, I just adore it. It's wonderful, David.
Yeah, thank you. And certainly I share that appreciation with our cheesemakers at Rogue Creamery, and John and Stacy Mayer for opening my eyes and my senses to this opportunity. As you know, John, they're now retired from Rogue, but was the brewmaster there, also known as More Hops John. So this is really an inspiration from John and that experience at the Rogue Farm. So, and it all comes together in this cheese. So, yeah. Well, are we ready to go on to some blue?
Absolutely. We are more than ready to move on to some blue.
Mhm.
How about that?
Yeah. The blue that we have next in this tasting is our Crater Lake Blue. It's defined as an American original. Blues basically were defined in two categories. I love this book by Feitzer. It just basically talks about the two categories. It's a historic book, and I was looking at it the other day, and it defined blue in two categories: homogenized and non-homogenized. And look where we've gone today, right? The number of categories of blue that we see in competition, and blues that are flavored, blues that are mixed milk, blues that are naturally rinded, uh, and certainly traditionally inspired, whether that's a Gorgonzola or a Stilton. So this would fall into the American original category. And there are a number of ways that American cheesemaker can take a traditional recipe and then change that recipe, whether it's moving forward a pH differently from that traditional recipe, or adding a flavor, or adding a different combination of molds. And we have a combination of Penicillin 40 molds in this cheese. So, and the way we apply the Penicillin Roque 40 at different stages is also an adjunct to the recipe, making it original and flavorful. And you'll get that in the texture of the cheese as well. So just take a little bit from the center of the wheel or the center of the paste and allow that to melt. And what you're going to notice is you're going to notice some phosphate calcium crystals or brucite crystals that just gently hit the palate, and then they melt away. And you'll find those crystals in bloomy rind cheeses, semi-soft cheeses like a blue, and they actually start to appear as the cheese ages, and it's a very common characteristic in our cheeses. I like to describe it as the rock candy of our cheeses, so it's really a nice surprise. But it's a blue that's really expressive in flavor, in piquance, and in brightness and spiciness because of the proprietary cocktail of molds that we use. And then the texture is like no other blue as well. It's very distinctive with that creamy butteriness, and then layered with those brucite crystals, and then it just dissolves magnificently on the palate. So enjoy. And again, I've cut some pear here with it, and I also went to Lilybell and picked up a bit of chocolate, and I thought that would be an amazing addition to that. It's a single varietal bean to bar chocolate. It's 70% Colombian, and I thought this would be pretty amazing with this cheese. So, cheers.
It's so creamy. It's melt in your mouth. I did a little story for the beginning of the American Cheese Month, which we're in right now, and we talked about the three blues. Your blue being the best blue in the world, and going through there. And a lot of times you get people that say, "Well, I'm not a big fan of blue. I tried it and I didn't like it. It was too strong." And I always like to say that it's like going into the produce department and picking up a vegetable, taking a bite and say, I don't like any vegetables because they're too strong or they're too whatever. So we have that uniqueness with the differences that you have from each of the different styles.
We do, yeah, and we certainly have a number of styles and at Rogue Creamery. So we have 11 recipes of blue cheese, and people ask, Dave, are you going to create another? Of course we are. So the team has really come together in creating yet another blue that we're looking forward to releasing sometime in 2021. So always about discovery and really creating experiences that are distinctively Rogue in so many ways. So those experiences lead with that sweetness, that hint of fruity, and that savory note. And so with that, I just wanted to briefly introduce you to Zach Rose, our dairy manager. He lives in Grants Pass, Oregon at our dairy farm, and he'll be showcasing the dairy. Zach, why don't you say hi to everybody?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Good to see you, David.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us. I know you're super busy out there. You have cows calving, and certainly it's a busy time with spring and managing our intensive grazing program. So we're looking forward to hearing all about that shortly, Zach. So I did deliver the cheese flight to Zach on Sunday, so I know you're getting a chance to enjoy it with us.
When I tasted this before we started here a couple days ago, it sent me all the samples and I went through there. The first thing I thought about was the Booze Time cherries. And I think you might remember that you and I had these before from Taste
Love
Up.
those cherries. These are the most amazing cherries in the world.
Decadent between the cherries and the creaminess of the cheese. This is like the most decadent pairing that I've ever had.
I love it. I love it. That's outstanding. I'm looking at you with a bit of envy. So I didn't have those Booze Time cherries in my pantry. So and for those of you who have joined us, please look in the fridge, see if you have a pear, an apple, see if you might have some grapes, some chocolate in your pantry, and just start experimenting with flavors. That's all we're doing here. It's great fun, and Michael and I have a great reputation for doing just that. And so look at that. That's amazing.
So, you can add some fruit in there. Like I said, I'm a real big fan of the Booze Time cherries, crackers. Also, Effie's nut cakes would go really well because you can get something and that added flavor to there. And then, for a beverage choice, I got to ask a lot. I did a lot of referrals about, what it is that you can pair with this. So I'm using the 610 porter, which, adds some real rich maltiness to it. But you can also pair this up with this Cabernet. It is a reserve. It's wonderful. Very similar to the Syrah that you and I, David, had that one time in Fort Lauderdale. So it's got a lot of fruit forward.
Yeah, that was the most memorable dinner. And so I'm pairing it with a kombucha. So it's a berry kombucha. And so again, I have a full day ahead of me. I like to be joining you there with a glass of wine or a beer another time for sure. So. But I really enjoyed this pairing. I like the effervescence, how it really helped spread out the butteriness, and it really pronounced the fruit that's in this blue as well. So this is just a berry kombucha that was in my fridge. And so I took a quick inventory, and that's what ended up on my cheese plate. So. Those bruchite crystals are so pronounced. I love that. And with the berry kombucha, it just ends on more of a savory note that Rogue cheeses are known for. So this cheese actually has a bit of age underneath it too. So we're at about 8 months in this cheese, and so it's really more pronounced than that spiciness and that fruit forward flavor. It's just really a delicious cheese, an American original. I think to cut that sharpness that the cheese delivers, I would also add some honey to that. And I had some honeycomb here, and so this honeycomb is from Chico Honey, and it's actually, they harvested it out in Montana, but I think this would be just superb. And I'm going to reach for this bread. I baked a bit of bread, not my best, but I think with the weather here, it just didn't give the rise I had hoped, but it's still super, super delicious. So, and a little bit of honeycomb as well. And again, just using the ingredients from my pantry to bring this all together for our tasting today. So feel free to pause, check out your refrigerator or your pantry, and bring something to join us in this experience.
Zach, if you want, you can close out your screen there if you want to kind of hang out by just hitting the start video section on the bottom left-hand corner.
I really like that with the honey. And again, with a bit of envy, I enjoy the honeys in Florida too. So I imagine you have some good honey on your table there, Michael.
As a matter of fact, I have the Savannah bee honey that I use for it. Savannah bee honey is 80% pollen count, so it's got a lot more. This is actually honey for cheese, so it's kind of cool to be able to have something like that. And so it is my go-to for basically any blue. But for yours, it's just adds this. It's just like sweet cream and honey, you know, that adds to the flavor characteristic. So it's pretty special.
Yeah, and I know the honeys there also are very floral, so that would just add another dimension to this experience that would be really enjoyable. So I also pulled together some roasted hazelnuts. I didn't roast these. These are Zella nuts. They're available at the Road Creamery Cheese Shop in Central Point. But what I did do is of course, Michael knows me, I dusted the nuts with some Blue Heaven, the dehydrated blue powder, just to bring them up to another level. So again, adding to your cheese plate. And my cheese plate's pretty simple here. I'll just give you a quick view. Lift my computer. You can see, let's see, I think you can see I have the cheddars in front with the blue and some Marcona almonds, as well as the hazelnuts. So, and the pear, as well as a loaf of bread on the side there. So just a real simple plate of cheese to enjoy. And I think that's something that I really like to stage the cheese first and foremost. I'm a cheese maker. If I were a wine or beer maker, I'd like to stage that beer or wine first and foremost. But all of these ingredients, all of these sides really go well with the cheese. And I woke up this morning and I thought about the cheese plate and just sketched it quickly, and voila. Always helps me to draw it out before I assemble it. So as you can see, it's very simple. And Michael, I'm really impressed with your cheese plate there. So, and thank you for sharing.
The fun thing is, I did exactly what you did. I grabbed stuff out of my refrigerator. I had some Volpe, some prosciutto, that goes really well with that. I had some fresh fruit that I brought in. I always have some crackers hanging around somewhere. So I just piled all this stuff up here. I kind of just built it through. So they don't have to be complicated. You don't have to go out and spend $1 million on building a cheese board. You can just go out and find stuff that you normally eat. I pair all these things up. I have some fresh fruit in the morning, so this works out really well, doing a cheese board. Because this blue is just so creamy and so milky that, it just goes really, really well. While you were talking, I was literally dipping the fruit into the cheese because it's so creamy, and literally making a little prosciutto sandwich. Stuffed prosciutto, as a matter of fact. Take a little piece of prosciutto, stuff it with a little piece of cheese because it's so creamy. It's so easy.
That's wonderful. Well, you could take that another step, right? And stuff olives for later this evening. That would be amazing. And one of my favorites is to wrap prosciutto around figs and stuff the figs with a Crater Lake Blue and then put those on the grill. Oh, another just decadent, quick, and easy appetizer to create. So, well, let's move on to the Smoky Blue. It's truly one of my favorites. And it's a blue that I created in 2004. It served a purpose. There wasn't a smoked blue out there. And it was a chef who actually asked me to create it. And Michael's heard this story a few times, but I failed miserably many times at creating it because I was smoking it over local and regional woods and just didn't quite get the flavor profile I wanted until the chef of a restaurant that was in Central Point called Rostell's came to me and delivered a bag of hazelnut shells. So we now smoke this blue over a bed of hazelnut shells, and there are no allergens connected to that because it is smoke and it is the shell. So, but what you do get is just the sweet, lovely bacon note. And many vegetarians enjoy this cheese because it has those savory, lovely notes that and that we experience in eating a cured bacon or a prosciutto or a salami. I have the goat Chaban salami here with me today, but so we use a vegetarian enzymes to coagulate our cheese, and so it's vegetarian friendly, and the smoke just adds such a dimension. It delivers flavor as an ingredient. It works as a standalone. I like to pair it with honey, but I also like to add it onto a salad to create a compound butter with it, to introduce it to my mac and cheese recipe. It's just really the secret ingredient at my household. And so it's really a fun one to snack on as a standalone or to use it as an ingredient, as a number of chefs do. So it is created from our base core classic signature Oregon blue. And that blue is just the workhorse for Rogue Creamery. It's been around since the early 50s, and it's made from cow milk, and it is a non-standardized, non-homogenized organic blue. And so we smoke wheels from lots of that we create by hand, and we'll smoke them for about 16 hours in a refrigerated smoker, and then allow those wheels to cure with the smoke, so you get that flavor throughout the wheel. So it's out of the gates, this cheese has been accoladed from Paris to New York as an innovative cheese, and has been celebrated from Burgerville, which is a Northwest chain in the Northwest, to fine dining around the world. So let's enjoy. I'm cutting the slice and get that savory note, a little hint of smoke. Again, it's not over the top. We want the fresh milk aromatics to come through and balance with that smoke. So I think it's a subtle smoke that expresses itself over time in your mouth, and certainly it's a nice subtle expression in a plate, whether it is a casserole or a salad. Enjoy. Boy, I really get the sweetness in this lot, don't you? Yeah. And it just really has an elongated smokiness to it as well. I think it would be just brilliant with some honey, or just maybe simply on a cracker, or in this case, some bread. So, and then I think I am going to pair this with some coffee, and I'm also going to try it with some Republic of Tea matcha that I just brewed as well. So, but I think that I'm going to try the coffee first. My favorite mugs are available at roguecreamery.com. That works. And try the matcha by Republic of Tea here. That also works. It adds a bit of a honey note to it. So yeah. Michael, I can only imagine what you have in front of you to pair with this.
The creaminess is, again, you know, amazing, because when you think about when you're smoking this, that there would be a possibility of drying it out, or being so overpowering in the flavor characteristic, that this has got such a subtle flavor to it that, you know, when I was thinking about pairing it, obviously fruit and charcuterie does really well, honey does really well. But when I was trying to think about what I would actually drink with this, I really didn't want to lose the flavor characteristic. So I chose a lager, just something really simple, uncomplicated, nothing really big. I'm using the tent lager, and it's just a nice, simple, cleansing the palate. So every time that I take a sip, it cleans the palate, and I start over. I get a fresh blue cheese flavor. So it's really just spectacular.
Excellent. Yeah, and you know, I hearken back to the early days when I created this, and my go-to pairing was always the chocolate stout or the imperial chocolate stout, and it still is today by Rogue. And so there's a number of chocolate stouts out there by brewers, but I really would recommend that you seek a chocolate stout out and pair this with a chocolate stout. And again, smoke counters spice, right? So you can also pair it with a spice beer or a spiced tea, a spiced herbal tea. It really is lovely with peppers, and so roasted peppers on the grill. It's just one of those really versatile cheeses on a cheese plate, pairing with beer and wine. I like to do Vintner's blends with it, and then really more sweeter Riesling style wines as well, and dessert American dessert lines are just really complement to this. And then also, I think like the Marcona almonds would be just a brilliant pairing with that too.
Absolutely.
So,
When you talked about stouts, I was in Alaska working for a distributor, and Rogue was one of our primary beers. And this was back in the late 90s. And Rogue Shakespeare's Oatmeal Stout was my all-time favorite. And even today, still think that it's like one of the best stouts out there. And I would agree that if you had that, you know, as the story kind of goes, is that I spent some time with John and Stacy at the brewery, and we had done a couple pairings ourselves. And when we got to that, we were tasting a Bloomy Ride, and Stacy looked at me and she goes, "Oh my God, this is chocolate cheesecake." And the stout just brings out so rich flavors and buttery flavors out of the cheese that even with this, you get a kind of like a smoky flavor, which the Alaskan did a smoked porter. So you'd kind of get a little bit of a hybrid with the porters and with the stouts, which is absolutely fabulous.
yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And so I thought what we do is just pause our tasting for a moment and go to the dairy in Grants Pass along Lower River Road, inviting Zach to join us. Zach, are you there? Good. Welcome, Zach. Good.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here and sharing the Rogue Creamery Dairy to our guests this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, thank you for having me. I appreciate what you're doing to promote cheese and cheesemakers specifically, and Rogue Creamery. And so as David was saying, we are located in Grants Pass, Oregon. We've been here since 2012 at the dairy farm. And so first thing you see are a couple of our Holstein cows, Charm and Alexis. And yeah, we're just a small 120 milking cow organic dairy located in Grants Pass, Southern Oregon. And this is a view of our up-to-date farm. This is our freestall or our cathedral barn and our robot room. And this overlooks the Rogue Valley, just a beautiful location down here in Southern Oregon. And the scenic Rogue River, and then our cow pastures just closely there too. So Rogue River, obviously the namesake for the Rogue River Blue that won the World Cheese Award Championship. And as you can see, we have 68 luscious green pastures, 68 acres of luscious pasture to graze. And so this video actually is the first day of grazing for our cows. So you can actually see them having a blast in their first day back out on pasture. We have a pretty small window of time throughout the winter where they can actually be outdoors. But even just being a little stir crazy, they come out and they have a blast just running out for the first time. And so this is kind of a cute picture. So if you want to pause right here real quick. So this is kind of unique because you don't usually see a lot of cows gathered around a new mother and her baby. Usually the mother cow, when she's about to have her calf, she'll take off to a different location and hide there and have her baby in a private area, and then they join up with the rest of the herd shortly after. But that day in particular, the entire herd actually surrounded this young first-time mother, and they were just all around her. And so I went to go see what was happening, and of course the baby was already there, and it was just such a photo-worthy moment. And so this cow is Jelly, one of our brown Swiss. So we milk a couple of kind of cows here, brown Swiss, Holsteins, and a few crossbreeds and Jerseys. As David says, we don't classify our milk or separate our milk or homogenize our milk. So we do that genetically at the farm through breeding. And so we have decided through our testing and that abilities that brown Swiss and Holsteins make the milk we need for our cheeses. So this was a couple of weeks ago, about 4 weeks ago, and that's really kind of the highlight of grazing season right there. You see the irrigation that comes from the Rogue River, and then the cows just grazing on inches and inches of great grass. And of course, David there with his girls. I mean, those are those are his babies right there. Every time he comes to see them at the dairy, they remember being at his house and growing there. So it's always a pleasure to have him out at the dairy and to see the girls come up and see him again. And so this is a video of our rotating cow brush. So we try to take care of our girls as best we can, but we provide them with extra things like a rotating cow brush to give them massages. It flips up and down and spins, and they actually will tear the daylights out of it enjoying their massages. They love it. And so this is a picture of inside of our robot room. And so we have two robots, and they're named Charlie and Matilda. And so the robots actually milk the cows. We don't push the cows to the robots. The animals come on their own when they want to be milked. And so this is actually a video of how the robot works. So what's happening right now is it's actually attaching teacups to the cow. So as she comes in, she's identified, and then she is cleaned, and then it attaches the teacups. During this time, she's being fed a treat of a grain that's formalized for her nutrition. And so on this screen, you'll actually see some information, her name, her number, how much milk she's expected to give, like at this particular milking, 66 pounds, flow rates, a little bit about each thing that's happening as she's milked. This is actually the heart of the robot. So this is telling us how much milk, how fast, the quality. And so the milk flows through there, and you can actually see right there the milk flowing in from each individual quarter of the animal. And so as it goes around, what you'll see next is the receiver, and the milk actually will accumulate for this individual cow as she milks. And you can see the color. It's a rich, beautiful, slightly tinted a little yellow with the amount of fat and just the quality of that cow's milk. And so it goes from there up into the filter and into the tank. And so as I was saying, you'll see this cow, Madison, who is actually being milked right there, is actually getting a treat. And so she's pretty aggressive. She's actually banging, trying to get a little bit more grain. So we enjoy our cows coming in, and they get to get a nice treat, and they get to deliver their milk, which they love to do. Our cows average 2 to 3 times a day milking, and some go as many as 6 times a day. And again, this is all on their own terms. It's automated, so once we have taught them once or twice, they usually pick it up, and they come about the same time 2 or 3 times a day, and they choose a particular robot that they choose and they want to go to, and they usually stick with it. And so we really love this system. We love the dairy, and the cows are a joy to work with.
So Zach, you've named every one of them. And so is there any rhyme or reason to the naming of a cow? Is it an inspiration that day when a new calf is born and you name it? And then how do you keep them all those names straight? I've been out there, no kidding. And Zach has a way of just naming the cow that's in front of us, but also naming her mother and her grandmother and her sire. So amazing, Zach. Yeah.
So it gets me in trouble a lot at Christmas and family functions because I don't remember birth dates of my own family members, as sad as that is, but I can go to a farm for a couple of months even if I were there day by day and memorize cows' names or numbers by their markings or by a certain feature. And naming cows, usually we do it by a family name. So just as most people carry their last name with them or their maiden name, or they hyphenate. So we carry the animal's first name. So for instance, if Madison had a calf, which she did a couple months ago, we carry her first initial to her offspring's name. So her son was named Maverick. And when you stabilize those names with that first letter, it carries, and you can say, oh, that's the M family. That goes back to Madison, or that goes back to Mariah, or that goes back to Monica. You can remember who they're from using those same initials. And then sometimes we'll go off key and we'll just see this calf that's born, and it has a special marking, and you say, well, I love the family, but I'm changing the name because I feel like this name meets better than the initial letter would be. So for instance, like Tyson, he was out of a cow named Snick. And so I'm just looking at him like, he looks just like a Tyson. He just looks like a Tyson, and it's tough. And Tyson is our herd bull, and David gets the pleasure of coming to see him on his grumpy moments, but he's a big, gentle giant.
Oh my gosh, he's a talker. He really is, but he's
Absolutely.
a gentle soul. And the other a thing about naming. We do give tours at the dairy, and there's a calf born every day. And so there's always an opportunity for a guest on the tour to name one of our calves as well. And sometimes we do post a calf on Facebook and have a naming contest. So please be on the lookout for that. It's always fun to know that there's a possibility for one of the Rogue Creamery calves to be named by you.
Yeah, keep your eyes out in the next couple of days. We have some on the way, and I have one now that will be popping up in the next few days on Instagram for a name.
Well, and Elizabeth, I see that you just suggested a name, Coco, on Facebook, and I want you to know that Coco is now at my personal farm being pampered. So she's first to the grain trough every morning. So it's just such a gentle heifer. So she's really looking beautiful. So I just saw her this morning and gave her a pet around her ears as she snuggled into the grain bucket. So yeah, so just a nice quick update on Coco. Yeah. Well, Zach, thank you. And I know you're super busy out there, and really appreciate the time you took in joining us this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Michael, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, enjoy the rest of that cheese. And,
yeah, thank you.
We're going to go on to this Mischievous black lager cheddar.
I actually just had it just before we started, and I absolutely enjoyed it.
Beautiful. All right. Enjoy.
All right,
that.
I have cows to tend to. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. That was greatly appreciated. So appreciate any moment that Zach can jump away from the farm and share his passion for farming. He's a 7th generation dairy person, and is really committed to just cow comfort and happiness, and our landscape too. Just really creating soil to generate luscious pastures that just translates into the flavor that you experience in our cheeses. So the next cheese is a beer cheddar. The beer cheddar is the Mischievous black lager, and so well named, might I add. So I was just so excited that this Mischievous cheddar block showed up in our cooler. We just discovered it and thought, well, this will be the finale. And a great story too, because Michael worked with the brewmaster of Mischievous black lager to create the lager for this cheddar. And the story goes back actually to early 2000 when John Meyer and Jack Joyce, one of the founders of Rogue, and I were creatively discussing an idea of creating a beer cheddar, and a simple beer cheddar that really reflected the flavor of the milk, of the cheese, as well as the beer. And so we created the chocolate stout cheddar in early 2000, about 2003. And so, and simply after cutting the curd and adding the salt and then digging the trench and allowing the whey to weigh off of the salted curd, that's when we add the beer to the curds and allow it to meld and get absorbed into that curd. And then we're hand dipping the curd into the block and press it. So you get an ever so light marbling in this, but you can smell it and just get a real malty grain note. And it's just so sweet as well. You get the sweetness coming through on the cheese. And that's, again, a reflection of the pastures that our cows are grazing on, and that sweet note of grass and that lovely balance of cream. This has some good age underneath it too. So Michael, we created this about, if I can guess, about 10, maybe 12 months, so nearly a year now. So with some good age, I think it reflects not only the personality of a aged American cheddar, but also the personality of the ale or the lager is expressed in this.
Yeah, I was, when we were originally talking about being able to do this, you know, you asked me, it's like, you know, what do you have that you've worked with? And there's been a lot of different types of beer used, and you have the hops, so you have stouts and all of that. But this black lager is unique in many ways. That when you take a lager that's very, very light and add a little bit of dark malt to it, give it a little bit more richness to it, it really takes on its own life about being able to pair. It's almost universally being able to pair, and I think that's the advantage that as a brewer and also somebody in the cheese, that I can kind of help out a little bit of understanding about why they would work together. So a black lager is very general and works almost across the board with cheeses. But, you know, you can always find a cheese that it's not going to work perfectly with. But, you know, when we created this, and Mischievous has been my brand, I got a Mischievous Black, I have Mischievous Solstice, Mischievous Red. So there's all these things because that's kind of like, you know, my opportunity to be able to work with people. And Chris Johnson with 610 Brewing, not only being a friend, but an ability to be able to sit down and collaborate and brew some things. And he's very, very open to being able to do different things. And when you said, you know, let's do something, the first thing I thought about was our black lager.
That's perfect. It really is beautiful. Just well balanced with the cheese. And it has a lovely finish too. You just get a bit of maltiness at the finish and a little hint of, I would say, milk chocolate. Is everyone picking that up? And it just elongates the whole experience of this cheese. And again, this is a sharp cheddar, but isn't it sweet? It's just so contradicts what we know as a 1 year aged cheddar. It just has such a lovely sweetness to it. And I would say this black lager adds greatly to that experience and that sweetness. And that,
even though that this has over a year of aging, this is still a really creamy, an amazing cheddar. You know, it's not it's not hard. It's not intense in its flavor. It really has a nice balance out. And you know, you think about adding a beer to it, like at the Hopyard, you really kind of pick up that hoppiness. So here, you pick up a little bit of sweetness in this, and like you said, this is really a well-balanced beer and cheese.
absolutely. Yeah, I know. This is really a delicious go-to cheddar. And I think it would be a crowd pleaser for any cheese plate and any gathering. It would probably be that first cheese that would be consumed on a cheese plate at any gathering. So I'm curious, what are you pairing? Now, you notice I took a drink of coffee, and it was really lovely with this cheddar, but I can only imagine what you have in your hand there, Michael.
Would you believe that it's a Mischievous black lager?
Of course it
I
is.
know.
Of course.
You know, yesterday, I got with Chris, and he was kind enough to, you know, provide me with some extra beers. And you can see that this is a partial selection of what he sent me that they had available. And I, you know, very fortunate to have him as a friend and also to be able to collaborate and to be able to do more fun things with. But the Black Lager obviously does really well with the cheddars. It does really well with the blues. It does really well across the board. But, you know, obviously there isn't, to me, a better pairing than having these two together, you know, and your lovely cheese and this lovely beer.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Well, good on you. I will be joining you one day soon. So, well, this has just been a blast. I really enjoyed this whole afternoon focused on cheese, and it's a great way to celebrate American Cheese Month with all of you. And certainly, it's a way to express how many varieties of cheese are there, and so many made by great American cheesemakers, and so many stories behind each cheesemaker. So if you can, take a look at Rogue Creamery's Instagram story, and you will hear the stories behind the makers at Rogue Creamery and throughout the Rogue Creamery team. Again, happy American Cheese Month, and thank you for supporting an American artisan creamery that is a B Corp using cheese as a force of good.
David, I love you, man, and I miss you, and I want to thank you so much for being able to come on. Your presentation, having Zach come in, all of that was exceptional. Your cheeses, oh, you know, there's a reason why you have the best cheese in the world, is because you literally have the best cheese in the world. So it's a pleasure, and you know, I can't wait till we get together again sometime really soon and be able to enjoy this together, have a few frosty beverages like we did in San Francisco, and you know, another time soon.
We will all be together one day soon. And so we're going to conclude this presentation with a slideshow, and it is a teaser of Rogue River Blue, the cheese that really put the world on its rind in a moment in time. So the Rogue River Blue is made seasonally, and it is available around the autumnal equinox each year, celebrating the year anniversary on which we start making it. And so this slide presentation is just about Rogue River Blue, and our hope that you'll put a circle on your calendar for September 22nd and support your local cheese shop in purchasing a wedge of Rogue River Blue, or visit us at roguecreamery.com. Stay well, everyone.